Hey.
Hello. So glad to have you guys here.
Hey, everyone. Happy to be here. Very excited to be here.
Awesome. We're going to start actually looking backwards before we look ahead, because I think the notion, we're going to end up talking about curation, sustainability, but the notion of less is better has been a really important part of your career since the beginning. You pivoted out of fashion into the home space. Why was it important to make the change, and can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, hi, I'm Dexter, by the way, my twin brother Byron. So Byron in green, Dexter in beige. That's how our parents used to do it. But yeah, I mean, the pivot, and it's such a pleasure to be here with you guys. And we feel a little bit like newbies in the home space, but we do have a little bit of credibility in the space. But we were in the fashion business for a long time, for the better part of 20 years. We had the opportunity to work with some well-known brands that you guys would know, and brought some brands to North America, including Acne Studios when it was just 4 people, Maison Kitsune, and a bunch of other brands. And it was an exciting career in the fashion business. And I think that we've decided that in this sort of next generation, we had the opportunity to exit our business and sell it about 1.5 years ago. And then now, what we're really looking at, what we're really passionate about next, is trying to understand, instead of what we were thinking about in business 20 years ago, what the future looks like. And so having a conversation about the future of home is really something that is super exciting to us. And we've had the opportunity to design a variety of spaces over the course of this 20 years as well, too. And we're just fascinated by where home is going, and we just wanted to contribute and participate in that conversation.
One of the I'll let you go. But one of the examples you guys gave me was this idea of a gut renovation versus building a new home, and that's how you think about Goodee, your new business. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think when we had the chance to meet last week, well, we met before, but we were talking about also the exit from our past business, and Dexter mentioned one area, which is that we were importing very well-known Scandinavian brands, but was probably more significant in our work was 12 years ago we launched our own brand, WANT Les Essentiels, and the question was ultimately, well, our brand was built around this idea of want and need, and at the end of the day, that there's a desirability to things, but what's truly essential and needs to exist. It was a question that we were posing ourselves through our work and continues through today. Sorry, I digress from your question.
Okay, gut renovation.
Gut renovation. So sorry, the reason we're saying that when we had the opportunity to exit our past business, and it had been a 20-year project that we're super, super proud of, we've done a lot, Dexter and I were thinking about, well, what do we do next? Was this an opportunity for us to continue on the path that we were on, hence a renovation of an existing home, or look at building something new and starting outright? And it was really, I mean, a daunting idea, and I was thinking of the change and the beautifully intelligent women who were speaking before from the startup lens. It's not an easy path to go into this. I fortunately have a twin brother who, when you have all these doubts, he's like, yes, we could do this. Yes, we could do this. And that led us to start Goodee. And I think one of the things that's very exciting in this day and age is that things are moving so quickly in terms of consumer demands, technology, that steering a ship that's already in motion is a lot more challenging to do, and I'm sure some of the companies and businesses that are here recognize those challenges, and then having the opportunity to start fresh and say, if we're building a business for today, what would that look like, was a really exciting opportunity for us to start over.
So Goodee is 3 months old.
3 months old.
Tell us a little bit about it.
It's a baby.
Goodee's a baby. When we had a little bit of time, the very first question we asked each other was, do we even want to be in business together again? And that's the true story.
Yeah.
And it lasted about 16 minutes. And then afterwards, not even that long, 16 seconds. 16 seconds. But we said to ourselves, what do we really care about? And what are we really passionate about? And if we were exploring another venture, what would that look like? And I had this idea years ago when I was in India, and I was sort of traveling through markets with my wife. And I was trying to understand how, we had spent these 20 years traveling around the world. We saw all of these beautiful stories and beautiful people that were doing incredible work. And that could be in Italy, it could be in Tokyo, it could be in India. And I was trying to figure out, how do you stitch together all these great stories? So as we're living in this time right now where there's a lot of sort of pessimism, how do you bring up the optimism of the times, these great original or sort of origin stories? And that was the impetus for Goodee. And ultimately what Goodee is it becomes that connector. It's a connector between makers and artists and artisans, and then trying to connect them directly to an audience who's actually looking for these items, and the home space happened to be something that was incredibly, something that Byron and I were incredibly passionate about, and also because leaving fashion, which is very transient and very seasonal, Byron and I have always been talking about things that were timeless, things that were genderless, ageless, and quite frankly, borderless, and this was just the perfect space for us to be able to celebrate those stories and put a whole bunch of products together. So I think we're talking about curation today, right?
Well, and, curation, how is curation the path forward? You go on sourcing trips around the world. You guys are everywhere. What are you looking for, and kind of how do you stitch all of those narratives together?
Yeah, I think where you were before on the less but better, we have a profound respect for people's time and curiosity, and I think our past work, whether it was our retail store, WANT Apothecary at the Nomad Hotel here in New York, or the brand, our whole existence has been about helping people save time, and I save time and discover things that they wouldn't find necessarily on their own. We were having a conversation earlier with someone, and she's like, I was on the platform, and I had most of these brands and companies and makers I had never heard about before, and that's refreshing to us because that's what we'd like to do. And as curators, whether you're a curator in the art space or in the media world, we have to help support people's, not only their time, but their curiosity, build trust together with them. I think that this is one of the biggest areas, and we'll, speaking specifically in the area of sustainability, how do you even know who to trust? We're spending a lot of time working on that to become, and we're going to have to earn it, but to become a trust agent as well, so that when people are looking for products in their home, in their life, that they could come to Goodee and not only discover them, but know that someone's been out there and doing that work for them as well too.
Well, I think you guys have a really interesting perspective on valuing consumers' time. We talked a lot about the fact that in the age of Amazon, everyone is racing to get you something faster. Yeah. And I think you guys decided that that wasn't where you wanted to put the value on your consumers' time. Tell us a little bit about that.
And we talk about this a lot, and we talk about it a lot with the team as well too. We're always thinking about how could you help people make better choices? Because it's difficult for us. I mean, if you're looking for anything today, there's just this wealth of choice, but how do you navigate all of that choice? How do you find the product that is actually really built to last? How do you find the products that have been sourced with an intentionality behind them? How do you find the products that where the staff and the team are treated in a certain way? And so what we tried to do was to try to be almost a little bit of a search engine to be able to curate that for the audience, to Byron's point, to save time, but also to try to piece all of these sort of individual origin stories all together so that collectively they become something that's quite beautiful.
Yeah, today it started by, it's very much related to the travels that we've taken and our team. We're a young, small team, but we've spent a lot of time researching and working together with partners to help share their stories and celebrate their work. What's getting really exciting now is just already 3 months in, we're starting to get a lot of brands and companies and makers who are coming to us and telling their origin stories and what they're doing.
I'm sustainable too. I'm thoughtful.
And I value, this is important to me. And I also believe that people care and that they will take that extra time for something to be, whether it's to be delivered to them or to read a story or a narrative, that they really want to be a part of this. So that's what we want to create the space for that and the environment for it.
Totally. Well, Goodee is focused on bringing a certain thoughtfulness to consumerism, but you're still selling stuff. Yes. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. How do you approach consumption? How are you thinking about selling product through a sustainable lens? What does that mean to you?
I mean, first and foremost, I think, back to, I was saying we have a strong respect for people and consumption is not a bad thing. I think there's this ultimately overconsumption is a bad thing. And I think that part of the reason why we consume, and we're coming from the fashion space, a lot of this evolution has already happened in so many other industries, and then we're looking at it in consumer goods and enter us into the home space and are questioning why people haven't made that full path that they have in the choices that they make in the food, or the way that they travel, or the way that they transport items into their home. So we think it's really exciting, and there's a shift here. It's very important for us to help guide our consumers so that when they are ultimately thinking that they want to own something, and then that item will be in their life and it will matter to them, or on another side, gift it to someone else, which for us is a major area of opportunity, because we really believe that what better time to show an act of good than when you're giving something to someone as well too. So,
one thing we talked about was this idea of thinking, when you have a new product, asking yourself, does this need to exist?
Yeah.
Does the world need another, what is it?
Yeah.
How does that play out on the site?
Well, I mean, it makes me think, Kaitlin, of there's this one brand on the site. It's called EcoBirdie. EcoBirdie is two young designers, fresh out of design school, out of Belgium, and we got so excited when we saw their product. They had just launched this kids' furniture that was made out of literally taking plastic from old discarded kids' toys, like Tonka toys, and then reappropriating them to make new furniture. Beautiful brand, beautiful story. They hadn't sold 50 of them worldwide. Enter Byron and Dexter, who see the sort of the potential and the value in not just their business, but the story and the people that are behind it. And it's been the beginning of what we find is a very exciting element that's on the site. So that's one of, we have about 30 brands that were on the launch site when we launched, coming from essentially 25 countries on 5 continents. And so, you know, EcoBirdie is one of many, and we sort of stitched that whole idea together.
And on that notion of curation again, what becomes really interesting is that EcoBirdie, they're out there, young designers, hyper talented, and they're doing this on their own. And I keep going back again to the startup companies that were up before, and if you could create a space where not only they, EcoBirdie or another brand as makers, that they're together with other like-minded individuals that are going through the same thing and share that same commitment and rigor and passion, then that's one of the areas that we've done our job. And then on the flip side, from a consumer level, if whether you have a kid or not, you might be interested in this story, but maybe you don't have a kid or you don't have or you're not gifting to a niece or nephew, there's still a multitude of other products that might, because this story is a story that matters to you, then it will introduce you to other stories that are related as well too. And that's where the curatorial element comes in, because ultimately we've defined that the new future of luxury is really where design and purpose intersect, and that the internal, that is how we see that there's no longer a price and exclusivity matrix, that it's really design and purpose that is how we define luxury today.
And on that note, we just, for EcoBirdie, just a couple weeks ago, which is fun for us when we're only been in business for 3 months. Literally, someone in the trade called us up, and we sold 18 of these chairs and tables for a hotel project in California. And it's just amazing that this was an opportunity that came for a brand that was out of Europe through their connection with Goodee.
That's amazing. As you were developing Goodee, you're curating all these products, and you're thinking about sustainability, which is a huge, broad concept. How did you define sustainability? How do you approach that, and what did you really value when you were picking brands to bring onto the site?
Yeah, I feel like, and we heard some questions earlier this morning, so many people feel like it's such a daunting subject and a hard idea to grapple around, and I think ultimately when we talked about less but better, we do believe that there is a kind of a funnel into it. The Sustainable Development Goals are a huge, continue to be a huge inspiration. And Dexter and I have had the opportunity to work together with the United Nations through a division called Ethical Fashion and Ethical Fashion Initiative, where we're producing products together with them and in support, a mandate together to support those goals. For the company, we have identified, it's 10 now, it was 9 a few weeks ago, but 10 causes or impact areas that we think matter the most to our consumer and to us, and that could be anything in terms of women empowerment or circular economy, from a supply side chain, from natural and organic raw materials and the like. So these could be found, and then ultimately, what is, because we're 3 months old, it's not fully there and visible on the platform, is that also a consumer will be able to search and discover products by what matters to them. So for us, sustainability, I think it starts with making better choices and being able to provide opportunities for people to do that as well too. And then
and I think that was, for us, it was from the very beginning, it was important that we led by example as well too. So on two sides, Goodee is a platform. At the exact same time, Goodee's making original product that Byron and I are collaborating and creating alongside with partners as well too. And so we wanted to lead by example. Naturally, or maybe not naturally, but the company is a B Corp company. The way that we run the business is very much through the lens of trying to lead in a way that points in the direction of what the future looks like. Frankly, the business model or the vision is that the optimistic vision is that all companies in the future will have design and some kind of sustainable intention, but they don't necessarily have a channel today that exists for them to call home. That's what we're creating Goodee for. It's really something that's being built for the future. So back to your question about sort of, is this a renovation or something brand new? We really thought it was important that you be able to come to one destination, and that destination at its core would be about good people, good impact, and good design. And those are the sort of the principles that we live by every day.
Like, we always talk over each other. So there was Dexter just when he was talking about the B Corp. Another point is that we have our own assessment. Well, obviously at this early stage, we've had the opportunity to meet almost all of our partners and been able to see their facilities and see how they work and meet their teams, and we're really integrated. And we also built an assessment tool where we work together with them to see what matters to them, what they're working on, the initiatives that they're taking inside their companies and the like. It was super exciting when we first sent this out. All of these brands were like, you guys are the first ones that ever asked us these things. And this means so much to us, and it was reassuring for them to meet a partner at this early stage who said back to them this was important to them. And to Dexter's point, I mean, it's still early days, but we hope that we could provide this environment so that these brands don't feel like it's falling on deaf ears or have to choose a distribution channel that is probably not perfectly aligned with them in order to meet their business objectives. And finally, on that point, we're not in the, we are, it's a B Corp company. We want to prove that doing good is also good business. We think that the potential is if these companies do volume and do scale as well too. So it's not our intention to make this a niche for Goodee to be a niche business either. It's really an opportunity for these businesses to find growth and potential in international markets as well too.
Is it easy to be cynical when you're talking about sustainability and sustainable living? And I know we talked about this a little bit, the idea that, like, do people care, or how do you get people to care?
People care? Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 500 potential customers in the world. I mean, we're super optimistic, and maybe it's the twins, because we are that for each other. Maybe it's our Canadian background or our Jamaican background, I don't know. But yeah, we think the future is bright. I mean, there's obviously, we've been at this for more than a minute. So I mean, we've been in business we're older than we look, but we've been in business for a long time, and we've seen a shift that for the first time seems consistent. It just needs organization. And when I say that, I feel like there's so many of us that are out there on our own trying to tell a coherent story about why their businesses and their brands need to exist. They feel instinctively like they could and should be doing better, but maybe they're not rewarded for that. What we're trying to do right now is we're trying to collectivize, and I think we're moving away from this idea of competition where everyone's sort of trying to carve out some space, and we need to move into a direction where we all complement and we all sort of collaborate for a better future, because it really kind of is the only way. And I think that Byron and I, just as designers, creators, or curators, we are fascinated by people who get up in the morning and just try to do better. And wherever those stories lead us, we live those stories every day, so it's hard to not be optimistic about what the future looks like.
We were literally in a meeting, I think it was on Thursday of last week, and we met a buyer for a major, well, I could say the buyer for the Webster from a fashion background. And he's like, I'm so excited for you guys, because we had worked on something like this some years ago and the consumer wasn't there, and now we think that the timing is really right for this because the consumer is moved. And I think that's an exciting space for us as well too, is to have an appreciation that the customer is there and that they really are looking for guides to help them move along this path a little bit more seamlessly, and I think that that's an exciting opportunity. That the timing is also, we've had a tendency to be very early to many things as well too. This is a continuation of the path that we've been on for 20 years, but I think that there's a really intriguing space in this right now, that the consumer is there and they're ready. They want to have this conversation now.
And I would just add that our aha moment happened in Byron's apartment. And we were sort of trying to grapple what this felt like for us when we were trying to visualize what this business really was. And it might sound surprising, but the word design was what came up. Was that a conversation about sustainability alone, I think it kind of gets you maybe 40% of the way there. I think when you start having a conversation about how design has the power to elevate the conversation one step further, and then when we start looking at how do people design with that kind of intelligence, that's what we're really focused on. And so if something's sort of sustainable only, it's, I'll say, not as attractive to us. If something's design only, when you mix the two of them together, it's this perfect elixir of the not so obvious. And that's where we're spending all of our time. That's where sort of the white space of our business is, and it's where our passion lies.
Did we run out of time?
We did run out of time. That is all the time we have. But did you have one more thing?
No, I hope everyone enjoyed. It was really cool and such a pleasure to be here. And yeah, you guys are awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
I've been telling you all day that this is such an exciting event, and it really means a lot that we were able to share our story with you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
it's
you.
so great to have
all
you
right,
here.
cheers,
Thank
guys.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.